man is lying in his hospital bed, surrounded by friends and family, reflecting on his recent near-death experience. He says, "I always thought it'd be the ulcer that killed me. I did everything the doctors told me. I drank the cream, ate the butter, drank the milk, and now I have a heart attack." This was a scene from the critically acclaimed original series on AMC called Mad Men, set on Madison Avenue in 1960. It is also a scene playing itself out in the portfolios of millions of Americans. Like Don Draper's boss in Mad Men, many of us are fighting the wrong dragon and killing ourselves in the process. During my various speaking engagements, I will often ask my audience, when you're thinking about your investments, what worries you most? And one of the first answers offered is always losing money. Capital preservation is our ulcer. Inflation is our heart attack. Think about the average baby boomer, someone born around 1952. For many of you, that won't be too tough because you are the average baby boomer. Now, assuming your parents were, let's just say, 25 when you were born, then your parents would have been born right around 1927. How do you think that shaped the messages you got about money, and in particular about investing? How do those messages affect you today? The dominant financial experience in the lives of most of our parents, and certainly our parents' parents, was the stock market crash and ensuing Great Depression. As a result, baby boomers were imprinted with certain ideas about money almost from birth. Don't put your money at risk. Pay off your home. Stock market losses are evil. As a result, as we accumulate assets, we become focused, or actually obsessed in some cases, on avoiding capital losses. So as we age, we start to gravitate towards fixed income securities like bonds. Well, if capital preservation is the ulcer, fixed income portfolios paying 5 or 6% are the cream. How so, you ask? The first thing you have to understand is the basic fact from which all of your investment decisions must follow. Assuming your objective is to someday be able to quit working for a paycheck and live off the proceeds of your portfolio, your life expectancy is the primary determinant of your investment strategy. The average retirement age for all Americans retiring in 2007 was 62. So let's consider the case of the average couple retiring this year. The joint life expectancy of a 62-year-old non-smoking couple is 92 years old. That is 30 years in retirement. This is the good news, bad news joke. Yes, we are living longer and staying active longer, but that longevity is also one of our greatest risks. In 1988, I was fresh out of college. I made $18,000 a year. I was single. I had my own one-bedroom apartment in a reasonably nice apartment complex. I had a brand new Ford Probe Turbo on which I made monthly payments. I paid my insurance and gas. I could afford to eat out, go out at night with friends, and take a couple of vacations a year. I could do all of that on $18,000 a year. Now granted, I wasn't saving anything, but my lifestyle was pretty comfortable. Let's imagine one of my grade school teachers who retired in, say, 1977 with a fixed pension of $20,000 a year. She was probably able to live pretty comfortably too, for a while. I mean, after all, the median income in 1977 was $13,572. In 1977, a gallon of regular gas cost 62 cents, remember? You could buy a Porsche 924 for under $10,000. And the median price for a new home was $54,200. But fast forward 30 years. It's now 2007. Now how well do you think my grade school teacher is doing on that same $20,000 a year pension? Even with a Social Security check and a paid-for house, I can promise you her monthly income doesn't go far enough. So here is where our inherited belief system clashes with our reality. The cost of living rises in the United States an average of 3.5% per year. That doesn't take into account health care, which is rising at least twice that rate. If you hold a portfolio which returns 6% a year, for example, your real rate of return, which is defined as the return left over after inflation, is only 2.5%. This is not enough to sustain any reasonable standard of living over a period which is likely going to span something like 30 years of retirement. The only way to sustain a reasonable standard of living over that long of a time period is to earn a real rate of return significantly higher than that paid by the so-called safe investments. In short, your long-term standard of living is directly correlated to the percentage of your assets you place in what has traditionally been thought of as the riskier asset classes like stocks. And therein lies the conundrum. In order to live comfortably, you must do the thing that you fear, which is put your capital at risk, because profit is the reward for risk. Without risk, there is no risk premium, and you must earn the risk premium in order to be able to live when you no longer have a paycheck. That's the bad news. Here's the good news. In spite of what you may think, in spite of what your gut might tell you, and in spite of the belief system passed on to you by your parents, there is effectively very little risk in the stock market for the long-term investor holding a reasonably diversified portfolio. Market risk primarily exists in the short term. I'll give you an example. I'm 47. For planning purposes, I assume I will live to the age of 102. In other words, I must build my portfolio to do its job for 55 years. If I plan to hold an equity-based portfolio for that long, what risk do I have? Not much. Will I experience temporary declines in my portfolio value? Of course I will. Markets are cyclical. They go up and down. Sometimes they go up and down a lot. But at the end of 55 years, how likely is it that my investment will not have grown at a rate that exceeds the total return on bonds? Well, as my grandmother used to say, nothing is impossible, just highly improbable. Therefore, your choices are really quite simple. In order that you not run out of money, or at least not run out of purchasing power, you must commit a substantial portion of your assets to an equity-based investment strategy and keep them there for the long term. Through the ups and downs, all of the panic buying and selling, the only way to make the required return is to always be in the stock market. Not market timing, not stock picking, holding a portfolio of quality companies over your entire lifetime and that of your spouse. For most of you, that's not easy. It will never be easy. It goes against programming imparted to you almost at birth. But you have to do it anyway. To do otherwise is to guarantee a heart attack by treating the ulcer.